deal with that, with our case, we can deal with it when we are at the receiving end. So Lakshmana was at the receiving end of such harsh speech. But what did he do? He was hurt at that time, but he did not hold it against Sita. So what is spoken? Intention. There is no need to see intention in that. Don't see intention. So sometimes, just in the rush of the moment, people may speak certain things. They'll hurt, but we don't have to hold it against them. We can't say that I will not feel hurt by it. But, okay, we feel hurt. Afterwards, there is a choice for us when certain words get imprinted in our consciousness. They are there, but we can choose how much we replay them. Just like sometimes some files are there in the computer, we can't delete them. Maybe they are in an area where we don't have the access to delete it. The file is there, but we can choose whether we open it or not. If we choose not to open, the file will be there, but it won't damage us so much. So like that, that memory might still be there within us. This person spoke like this. But to hold those words in that person means we speak it again and again and again. Or we remember it and we remind the person, you spoke like this. But we can do that. Under the force of emotion, under the force of situation, people may speak all kinds of things. Even we may speak various kinds of things. We don't have to take that very seriously. So, first of all, why am I talking about this point? That unless we give others, come ahead please. Unless we give others the benefit of doubt, so we will not get, unless we forgive others their harsh words, we will not get the strength to forget the harsh words that have been spoken to us. Ultimately, the universe is reciprocal. There is a law of karma. If we remember that this person hurt me like this, then if we hold people's misuse of their power of speech against us, then that same power of speech will come back and hurt us also. So having said that, if we move forward, now again in the Ramayana we see how speech can bring down barriers. And the best example for this, can you guess who is the best example? How speech can bring down barriers. Okay. One more person?
Hanuman.
Yes, Hanuman himself. Thank you. In which occasions?
When Sita Mata was in forest, abducted by
Yes.
Ravana, he went and...
Yes, correct. Thank you. In fact, it's both occasions. When Hanuman first met Ram and Hanuman met Sita, both of them. So let's look at both those incidents. When Hanuman met Ram for the first time, at that time it was a situation of suspicion. Sugriv was living in fear. Living in fear that maybe Vali will send someone to kill me. He was living in the area of Kishkind, near the Pampa Sarovar, where Vali, because of a curse, could not enter. But Vali might send someone to kill him. And then when he saw Ram and Lakshman, he was taken aback. He was alarmed. Because these were people wearing the ascetic dress, but they were carrying bows and arrows. Who are these? This is suspicious. It's as incompatible as you see somebody wearing a sadhu's dress and carrying a machine gun. Hey, what's going on? So he was taken aback. And then he got alarmed. And then Jambavan was with him, and Jambavan said, don't get alarmed, let's find out who is this. And they asked Hanuman to go. And Hanuman changed his garb, and he took the garb of a Brahmana. And as a Brahmana, he came over there and started speaking very sweetly. And as he was speaking so sweetly, Ram turned toward Lakshman. He said, this speech is so sweet that just by hearing his speech, I am feeling so peaceful. My mind is pacified. My mind is feeling cheerful. So I Actually, this is the power of speech. That some people can speak it so sweetly, so soothingly, so gently, that the agitated mind becomes calm. Now Ram was agitated. Ram in one sense is transcendental, but he's also a relational person. And as a relational God, he has emotions. So in separation from Sita, he was agitated. But just by hearing Hanuman's Brahmanical words, he felt a calming sensation. And thus, because Ram was searching for Sita, he was in anxiety. That anxiety would have also caused a barrier. So Hanuman, by sweet speech, he lowered the guard. Of course, there was not much danger because Ram is very powerful. But still, for communication to happen, trust has to be won. And in general, if we look at each other, how do we all make some assessment of people when we meet them. Broadly speaking, we assess people in 4 ways. One is how they look. We say, oh, this person is wearing this kind of dress. I think they may be from this part of the country. Or maybe they belong to this financial bracket. Or they may be from this culture. Or whatever. How they look. Then, second is how they speak. If somebody is using all kind of foul words in their speaking, then, this person may be from a particular kind of strata in society. Oh, this person looks very well educated, very fluent. Then we look at not just how they speak, we look at what they speak. If we see somebody talking about something scientific or something philosophical, you see, this person seems to be an intelligent person. People may talk about sports or movies or politics. What are they talking about? And then we may ask them, what do you do? What are they doing right now? And what do they do as a profession? So by that, we broadly try to begin a first impression of people. Now, in this, you will see their appearance, the manner of speech, the content of speech, and the action. Here, if you see, speech plays a very important role. It said that sometimes we don't know about a subject. And sometimes if we still try to speak something about a subject. Now, some people, if we stay silent, we feel this person doesn't know anything. They may doubt like that. So, our silence may create the doubt that maybe this person is ignorant. But our speech may remove that doubt and create certainty that we are ignorant. So, it may well be better to stay silent in some situations. So, the manner of speaking and the content of speaking, both are important. And Kali Yuga, many people look more at the manner of speaking than the content of speaking. In fact, in Kali Yuga, one of the characters of Kali Yuga is Satyatve Dharshtyam Evahi. The more audaciously someone speaks, the more truthful they are considered. So, Bhakti Thakur tells a story that once there's a person who was considered by his own small tribe to be a very scholarly person. And he challenged a great scholar to a debate. And the scholar came and the scholar spoke elaborately Sanskrit. And this person who knew very little Sanskrit, who had no learning, this Kastam, Mastam, Tastam. This is Kastam, Mastam, Pastam. Now this scholar is so stunned. He says, he doesn't even understand basic language. And he's trying to debate over here. He's so amazed by this that he stayed silent for a few moments. And that person's followers, just see, we have made him silent. We have won the match. So sometimes, some people, their knowledge is amazing, and some people, their ignorance is amazing. Now if you see, there is a brand of entertainment that has become popular over the last 10-15 years. And that is reality TV. Now if you see in reality TV, actually those who are stars, their only qualification is an extraordinary capacity to be shameless. You speak outrageously. And the more outrageous things you speak, the more outrageous things you do, the more, wow, you can do that also. they have no talent at all. So people get so influenced by it. In fact, it's not just a matter of entertainment. The American president is a reality TV star. Who eventually has become the most powerful person in the world now. And of course, now this urge to speak, it has been extended to social media. The one person can speak and that speech can go so far and out. Across the world it can go. So here I am talking about this point that speech can lower barriers, as it did for Hanuman. And similarly, speech can lower lowered barriers with Sita. Now, Sita was actually Sita was, with respect to Hanuman, she was in an even more vulnerable position. Ram at least had his weapons. Sita was imprisoned by Ravan. And she also knew that Ravan would try to impersonate or trick her into submitting to him. So that's why when Hanuman came in a monkey form, he first came in a small monkey form. And he started speaking the glories of Ram. When Sita heard it, she was attracted. But after that, still she was, who is this? Maybe somebody is tricking me. But then I started speaking special pastimes which nobody knew except Ram and Sita. And those Ram had told only to Hanuman. And then by that sweet glorification of the Lord, Sita understood that this is really a representative of Ram. And then they had a very stirring conversation. So you have the greatest devotee of Ram and the greatest servant of Ram. They meet together. And this is in the Sundar Kand of the Ramayana. There actually, the Sundar Kand, the Sundar has many different meanings. One of the names of Hanuman is a child of Sundar. Another meaning is that actually the beauty of the Ramayana is the Karunyas. The feeling of devotional agony, the angst of devotion. That is experienced. Although Ram is not present in the Sundar Kand in terms of action, but still Ram is present in terms of the recollection. And Ram's presence at that time is very strongly felt through his interaction. That is Saundarya, that is the beauty, that is Sundarta of that Kanda. So speech can break down barriers. Now we do say that actions speak louder than words, but often words are needed to explain actions. So for example, if Prabhupada went to America and he could have just been chanting Hare Krishna, translating his Bhagavatam, if he had not explained to people what he was doing, we would not have understood at all. So yes, we should be devoted to Krishna, but if we are devoted to Krishna, it's our responsibility to also explain what do we mean by devotion to Krishna. Why are we doing what we are doing? So words, sometimes when we say actions speak louder than words, we may minimize words. But no, actions speak louder than words, but sometimes words are needed to explain what the actions are speaking. Words are needed, otherwise the actions, what they speak is a strange old man doing some strange old things. People would have thought like that. So now, so if we look at this, sweet speech can bring down barriers. And even in relationships, even if old wounds have been fossilized and long-standing injuries are there, but if we make a conscious effort to try to speak gently, speak sweetly, then we can bring down barriers. We can actually create, our words can create windows instead of walls. Sometimes we speak such words that every word that we speak becomes like a brick which adds to the wall, and that becomes like a China wall. Now of course people don't know China wall. Most people are talking about the Trump wall which he wants to have to check immigration. But whichever. It becomes like a wall which blocks people. So, but words can also become like windows, which create means for communication, means for understanding. So what do we do? I'll conclude with this point of, it's a whole big subject, but how can we avoid words that are hurtful? How can we speak words that are helpful? So first thing is that start with the objective, not the subjective. That means what? You are such an irresponsible person. Here what has happened? We have already made a judgment. The same person who we consider irresponsible, somebody else we consider to be very responsible. So basically, if somebody is doing something which is making us angry, and we feel hurt by that, and naturally we feel hurt, we feel angered, and they have done something. So there are three things over here. There is the person, there is their action, and there is our emotion. So what happens is, we don't talk about the action, we don't even talk about our emotion so much, we just give our judgment about how the person is. Suppose somebody one day just comes to us and he says, I have forgiven you. Thank you very much. What did I do to need forgiveness? What did I do to need forgiveness? What are you forgiving me about? Oh, now I'm like, hey, you did such a terrible thing. I had so much difficulty forgiving you. And I have forgiven you and you don't even remember. So what happened? What do you mean you forgive me? What wrong did I do? So it can begin with a complete breakdown of communication instead of reconciliation. So people think, oh, after great effort I have decided to forgive you. What? So what we need to do is, if we want our communication, our speech to build walls, not walls, windows, then first begin with the objective. Objective means facts. So what is the objective? Now, when you forgot to do this thing. So when we do that way, what happens is, it's an objective fact. People don't deny that. Yes, I forgot to do that. When you forgot to do this, I felt terribly hurt. Because this was so important for me. Or because I needed it at that time. Whatever. So what happens? That we cannot suppress our anger, our hurt, our resentment, our negativity. It is there. But if you could structure it a little more carefully. One characteristic of Rajoguna is to separate the emotion from the situation. Not that we do not feel the emotion, but we learn to separate the emotion from the situation. So what emotion from the situation means? Rather than judging the person, you are such a short-tempered person, you are such a forgetful person, you are such a lazy person, you are like this, you are like that. Okay, that is my emotion. But focus first on the situation. If we want to discuss, if we want to build windows, then even if there is 99% disagreement between us, we have to start with a 1% agreement. Start with 1% agreement. Now what could be the 1% agreement? That is the fact. The fact. No, when you forgot to do this, or when you spoke like this, or when you did like this. So okay, I did like that. They may have a very different reason why I did it, or what happened. But we start with the action, as objective as possible. See, for all of us, say some surgeon is going to cut something. If a barber cuts the hair, there's not much pain because the hair is not having any sensation. But suppose we are shaving, and at that time they cut not just the hair but some of the roots. Then what happens? We feel more pain. Now, if somebody is doing some surgery, and or somebody is doing some amputation or something like that, and they cut the nerve. The closer we go to the nerve, the greater is the pain. So, when they do tattooing can actually be a very painful thing. If the tattoo artist is not very good, the tattoo artist actually, if he cuts the nerves or even touches the nerve, it's very painful. So the closer to a nerve that we go, the more the pain is there. If you are cutting far away from the nerve, like cut the hair above, then there's a little pain. So similarly, the more directly we attack a person, that's like going closer to the nerve. Person becomes agitated, person becomes defensive, person becomes aggressive. So yes, so there is the situation, there is our emotion, and there is they as a person. Or you could say there is their action, there is our emotion about their action, and it is they themselves. So suppose we wanted something very important, and they forgot to get it. We may be very upset. I may say, you are such an irresponsible person. So what has happened? Here we have attacked them as a person. And then immediately they respond. You think I am irresponsible? Last time you forgot that. So what happens is, instead of trying to deal with the issue, we point out something wrong with them, and they point something wrong. You are so irresponsible. So then it just becomes worse at that time. So to start first with something which is as objective as possible. What is objective? The situation or the action. When you forgot to get this, then people can't deny the situation, the actual situation. That's true. And then if I say, I felt so hurt, I felt so betrayed, I felt so angry, I felt so disappointed. Now, again, in general, in close relationships, nobody wants to hurt anyone else intentionally. And if somebody comes and tells us, no, I felt very hurt by what you spoke. Oh, what did I speak? I had no intention to hurt you. So again, when it is our emotion, people can't deny that emotion. Now whether my emotion, they can say whether your emotion is right or wrong. In the sense that it is unwarranted emotion or it's a warranted emotion. But when we communicate our hurt, then what happens? We invoke not the defensive instinct of the other person, but the caring instinct of the other person. If somebody tells, oh, I've cut my finger, then in a close relationship, that person will not bring a knife to cut the finger for you. Isn't it? That person will immediately bring a bandage. Okay, let me apply it. So in general, when the relationship becomes cold, we all raise our guards up. And if we raise our guards up, we hide our emotions, we hide our feelings. And then just basically hurt people. When people are hurt themselves, they hurt others. Hurt people. And in this case, what happens? There's no sense of proportion left. So for example, somebody steps on my foot. Now, as soon as I feel maybe the heavy-set person stepping on my foot, and I push them away. Now, if I push them away and they fall down and I knock on they hurt their head and they get injured, I'm sorry. Now, but at that time, I had no intention to injure them. My intention was simply, I don't step on my foot. So when we are hurt, often we respond by doing something that hurts the other person, although our intention is not to hurt the other person. So similarly, what happens is, when, say if I am hurt, if somebody stepped on my foot, and we just say, you are stepping on my foot, oh, I'm sorry, the person will remove their foot immediately. So if we push, they may get angry. Why did you push me? Because they may not even notice that they have stepped on our foot. Why did you push me like that? What an impolite person. So begin with the action. Then speak the emotion. And then, if we want, we can speak our perception or our opinion. So that you are lazy, you are irresponsible, you are insensitive. These are all judgments. And once we start making judgments, immediately people become either defensive, no, I'm not like that. Or they become aggressive. You call me like that, but how are you? Then the whole issue becomes complicated. So, anudvega karam vakyam, don't agitate people's minds. That means if you consider our words to be like a scissor or a knife, don't cut the nerve. Try to cut as far away from the nerve as possible. When we do that, try to cut as far away from the nerve as possible, what happens by that is that person doesn't immediately become defensive. That person, oh, okay, I don't want to hurt you, I'll not do it. That way, if we work, we'll find. Now, at that point, it's so difficult for me to do it. It is true, it is difficult. But actually, not doing it will create far more difficulties. So, start with the situation. And sometimes that's why if we are angry, we are hurt, maybe that is not the best time to speak at all. So I was in a community where the devotees, there is 4 or 5 devotees are equal in spirituality. They're more or less equal. They were introduced about 15-20 years ago in Krishna consciousness. And they work together in the same project. And naturally, misunderstandings happen, conflicts come up. So they have a forum where every 15 days they meet, and if they meet for 2 hours, the first 1 hour they just simply discuss Krishna Katha. That is maybe 1 hour or half an hour, 45 minutes. What they do at that time is each of them speaks something inspiring that they are hearing, that they have heard, something that touched them, something that inspired them. So then what happens? Just by hearing somebody speak something inspiring philosophically, we start seeing them spiritually. Otherwise, we start seeing people very operationally. Operationally means, okay, this person is doing this, but this person like this person like this. So when we have that conscious Krishna-centered discussion, then by that, we develop a spiritual vision. And it's not like one person gives lecture, but everybody shares. Then we start seeing each other. We are all fellow seekers on the same spiritual journey. And then after that, when they have created that atmosphere of sattva, of bhakti, of spiritual appreciation for each other, then if they have any grievances with each other, they bring it up at that time. And then because everybody is really spiritually stabilized, then okay, at that time you did like this. I felt very angry because of this. Oh, no, but I did that because of this. Oh, I didn't know that at all. I thought you did it because of this, like this. And then many times things get clarified. And even if things are not resolved, at least if the concern is communicated and is understood, that itself actually resolves a significant amount of the issue. That means that we all need to be understood. And we need understanding as much as the human mind, as our heart needs understanding as much as our body needs oxygen. When we don't get oxygen, we feel suffocated. So similarly, when we don't get understanding, we feel agitated. We overreact. So basically, if we can create some occasions when we meet and first have a nice spiritual discussion. So if we are working in a group with some people with whom we are going to have, when we are going to do anything challenging together, there are going to be times when there are going to be issues with it. Yeah, I want to do it this way, you want to do it that way. There's going to be a difference. So some people are like that, even if they are wrong, they still don't admit they are wrong. Yes, my opinion has changed, but what has not changed is the fact that I am right. So, it's very difficult to deal with people like that. But most people are not that blatant. So, if we have some proper forums where we bring out our concerns, not in a judgmental, accusatory way, but in a gentle way of expressing our concerns, then what will happen? We can diffuse the explosion that may happen. And that way, we can maintain our relationships much more stably. Rather than being strung by the tongue, we'll be joined together by the tongue. Now our speech can bring us closer to each other, and if we are serving Krishna together, it can bring us closer to Krishna also. I conclude with one incident from Srila Prabhupada's life. We often think of Srila Prabhupada as a person who was very strong in condemning people, fools, rascals. You may have heard the statement like that. Now Prabhupada spoke those, but Prabhupada spoke those on very specific occasions. He spoke those only to his very close disciples in morning walks. In his purports, in his lectures, he has hardly ever used those kind of words. Very, very rare. Prabhupada has written something like, if you look at all his published books, there are something like 120,000 words that he has spoken. No, sorry, 120,000. It is, an average book is 50,000. He has written about it is 120,000 words he has spoken, roughly. It's a rough estimate. In that, in all his written words, he has used words like fools or rascals barely 25 times. But he has used the word Krishna almost 300,000 times. Krishna also equivalent of Krishna. So it's not that Prabhupada was always speaking strongly. At times Prabhupada spoke very gently. When the devotees came for the first time to India, there was a person who had just become a disciple of Prabhupada, but he was not a very serious disciple. And normally Prabhupada had his disciples shave their heads, wear tilak, wear dhoti kurta. But this person had taken initiation, but he was still having a long beard, long hippie kind of hair. And then he would come and join kirtans and dance. At one time it's good, but that was the time when also people were having this idea that the Hare Krishnas are people who take drugs. And he was a typical example of a person who we would think, as we're seeing only, must be taking drugs. So he was repeatedly misrepresenting Prabhupada. And Prabhupada wanted to tell him, don't dress like this. If you're having long hair, you can have long hair, but it's actually properly kept. It's just a wild long hair is there. So, but Prabhupada was so gentle and sensitive. One day when it became a little too much, people were really misunderstanding Prabhupada. So one day Prabhupada called him, and there was an article in a Back to Godhead magazine about how Haridas Thakur was a great saintly person, and there was this prostitute who had come to try to tempt him, but Haridas Thakur kept chanting Hare Krishna, and she had become a devotee because of that. So the article was there. Prabhupada told him, look at this article, and then he saw there was this picture of this prostitute initially when she was wearing like an alluring dress, and then she had become like a saintly, cultured woman. So he says, what is the difference between the two? So he said, she's a devotee now. He says, yes, but what is the difference? He says, oh, now she had hair, now she has, her hair is different now. Says Prabhupada, yes, that is the point. Oh, Prabhupada, do you want me to share?